I'm obsessed. JVN is here. This is like a really big deal, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, you podcast hoe.
Yes.
Do you feel like you're a podcast hoe lately?
Lately.
Yeah. Well, like since 2000, you're a podcast pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
you invented
I feel
podcasts.
I do actually feel like a podcast hoe now that you say it.
I feel like a podcast hoe all the time.
I just feel like I've been turned inside out, all over, everywhere. Just everyone sees everything, for all these years.
For all these years.
Yes. I have like the podcast equivalent of like the most gigantic rosebud that's ever existed.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't. That's why I was transitioning.
It's when someone engages in so much anal sex that they get this like huge prolapsed asshole, and it's called a rosebud, and you just get this like huge red thing that like falls out of your butt.
That's what it's like the medical term for it?
No.
Okay.
I think that's like what it's like. It's called a rosebud, girl. I can't believe you've never heard.
So it looks ugly.
It's like honestly, I don't want to like body shame anyone because like it's.
But if you see somebody with a rosebud, you're out.
It's just like some people, it's like a sign of beauty. In some cultures, it's a sign of beauty. For me, it's like kind of one of my biggest fears.
Like now you're married. But
like I don't ever want to look down there and be like, what the hell?
But if you were with this hot guy, they bent over, rosebud, asshole.
I'm thinking you gotta appreciate the culture.
Like you lean in.
Yes.
But aren't you scared to like hurt it more or rosebud it more?
They seem to be pretty like resilient. If you're able to get there in the first place, like you can.
They can deal with it.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a rosebud?
No, mine's always like been able to just be like. Mine's always been like internal. It's probably one internally.
So you have a good butthole.
It's like intact.
Did you bleach it ever?
No, but I do gently exfoliate the outside, loosely, like with just like loose. I never put exfoliant in my hole, but I do like loose. I actually explain this in my stand-up show, Fun and Slutty, because at the end, I do a live tutorial on how to prep for anal.
Oh.
But only after I do a crowd survey of like who's into anal and then who's curious about anal but doesn't know how to get ready. And then, it's usually not that many people. People are a little nervous.
About anal?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to tell this story. Do you want to know a story about me?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God,
I have a disgusting story to tell you later, too.
Okay.
But it's not about me.
I can't believe I've never said this out loud. Thank God my husband doesn't listen to my podcast. I put out when I was younger. Like, I literally, from 12, I was like down to make out and hook up and all that.
Yeah, you couldn't help it.
I couldn't help. I loved it.
Oh my God.
I was like, fill me up. And I was a woman. I was really a woman at like 11. I'm not
I don't
kidding.
know.
I looked
That's
like
how
this.
It works. Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding, you guys. I wasn't. No, I lost my virginity at 18, but wait for it. I was like 17 or 16, maybe 17. And I had this guy that I knew my whole kind of teenagehood. It was a really hot surfer dude, like long blonde hair. I loved it.
Okay.
I was like, I'm like in the movies. I was like, I'm gonna lose my virginity.
Yeah,
it's happening. I was literally in a movie. I ordered pasta, but put it in plates as if I made the pasta. I was literally in a rom-com.
Very Cher. Yeah.
So Cher.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I got my period. So what did I do, JVN?
What? What do you do?
What did I do?
You just fuck it. Just do it anyway.
No.
Oh.
I did what we were just talking about.
Oh, you did anal.
I did.
Good for you. You said, you know what? You said resourceful queen.
I said, can't do in that hole right now. I'll do that hole.
Yes.
And all my
he was
friends,
probably so accommodating.
And my friends made so much fun. Like, it was like the funniest story. Because
was he just like, no problem?
He I think, suggested it probably.
Oh, good for him. Yeah. You both were resourceful.
But I was down.
Of course.
I feel like the longer you don't do it is probably
so you
the longer
lost your virginity
exactly.
in your butthole first.
Right?
That took me so long for that to be like, oh yeah, because I was like, duh, yeah, that just sounds so natural. But
like,
for you, that's interesting. It's double interest because you had another choice.
Right.
You so went with that. Like, I can't wait a couple days.
I was like, okay, not that, then this. And my friends made fun of me because of that, where you said like you lost that virginity first.
Good for you.
I leaned
Your friends don't sound like that
friends.
adventurous.
No, they weren't. They weren't fun.
Okay.
I haven't done it. I'm not into it normally, though.
Do you want to hear a crazy
But
story?
you exfoliate. Wait, do you exfoliate with a face exfoliator or a body exfoliator?
No, I usually do I've used the Cora turmeric exfoliant by Miranda Kerr. I've used that. And I've also used...
I could see Miranda using
that's a face one. But then I've used the Herbivore Coconut Body Scrub on... And so what I like to do is I like to hit a little yogi squat in the shower. I do a little malasana. I drop down and I just do gentle buffing circles, like all on my whole crack. And I will say, between that and getting a bidet...
Do you have a day in one of your bathrooms?
Yeah, between that and so basically I'm essentially showering every time I shit. You know, I'm showering off my butthole every time. Essentially, amazing. I mean, yeah.
Does Mark do it too?
Yeah, but you know, since he's out of the room right now, really, I said shit, but typically I say blink with him. You know, I like to just maintain a little like I
Shut up. Wait, how long are you together?
4 years.
And you say blink?
Yeah, I want to maintain like this like mystery of my hole. It's like Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Does he say shit?
No.
What does he say?
He doesn't bottom though either, so it doesn't really like
it doesn't matter for him.
Yeah, well, and if he does, it's kind of like annual. It's kind of like anniversaries and birthdays. You know what I'm saying? It's like not like the most
It's
often.
a celebratory.
Yeah.
Because you want that, like he does it for you.
Kind of, it's like every once in a while, like you just kind of want to make sure you kick the tires, make sure everything's popping.
Oh, so first of all, that's kind of you to really maintain the area.
Yeah, I do, but I learned that because I was like, I was like my butt, like it's like not giving me like the same even color that I want it to. And,
how do you know?
Because I bend over and you pull your cheeks apart.
No,
and you look
stop.
At the full length mirror.
You do that often?
You don't look at your
no,
like,
I don't.
Oh yeah, at least 3 times a week.
No.
Yeah, I bend over.
Yeah.
I bend over in front of a full length mirror.
Yeah.
I pull it apart, and then I'm it's like part of my body inspection, girl. You gotta like look.
Do you wax there?
Oh no.
Okay.
No. Absolutely. Okay. I'm very like pro hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel that.
Girl, I'm living with HIV. I can't be shaving stuff down there, and you know, I mean, I'm sure I'd be fine. I'm undetectable. I could probably be fine, but no, she's down there for a reason. I heard she's a good barrier. Now I have a vaginal story for you.
Oh, okay.
Ready?
I love it.
I love that we're just like never gonna get to.
No, we're never. I have like all this intense stuff we're talking about, but
okay, you ready?
So much better. Yeah.
Okay, so I had this person that came to the salon, and they were a client at the salon, but you know they shall remain nameless. They meet this really hot guy, and they really want to fuck because he's only going to be in town for the weekend. So, but then she realizes that she has a yeast infection. So then she reads online that if she puts Greek yogurt up her vagina, that is going to cure the yeast infection. So she does. And then she's like, oh my God, it feels so much better. I'm like so relieved. This is like everything. I'm like totally ready to rumble. Then she picks this guy up from the airport. They start having sex and doing the thing at the apartment, and then all of a sudden in mid-stroke he just stops and like all the blood drains from his face, and he's just turned like moss, like this like light greenish color. Like he's like, the fucking Greek yogurt had curdled, like a pocket of it had like curdled. She didn't get it all out, and so he pulls out and there's like this curdled fucking Greek yogurt, like cottage cheese Greek yogurt. And like all over the place. And they're both dry heaving. Like she's just like, oh my God, I can explain. Like it was Greek yogurt. I had like, yeah. And he's like, Jesus. And like, how do you come back from that on like the first day of like a weekend date? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like, it was a lot. And that story's always stuck out to me in my head, which brings me to one of my first time effing stories, just inspired by yours. The first time I ever hooked up with a guy, I had only seen straight porn. And I didn't.
Why?
Well, because it was the fucking 90s. Okay,
oh,
it was like the 90s. I didn't know how to find porn. I found it in the ceiling. It was in my older brother's room. Okay, I didn't.
So you watched what you had?
It was a tape.
Oh, it was a tape. It wasn't like.
It was called Carnal
Hub.
Cravings.
What was it called?
Carnal Cravings. It was crazy. It had this like it was like these 70s people with like big perms, and this like lady had this huge bush with a mini leather skirt. She was a bartender, and she was like, it was crazy.
You really remember it?
I remember. Yeah, I was like, well, yeah, I was scarred. It was like Jesus. But so I didn't know what to do, and I was just like, oh my God, when is this ever going to be over? Because I was just like, after about, even then, like 20, 30 minutes,
Were you excited? Did it arouse you?
No, not the porn. I mean, like, fast forward through the porn, like when I'm actually having sex for the first time.
Oh, okay.
But after 20, 30 minutes, anytime, I'm always like, after 30 minutes, I'm just like, I want to be done. Like,
yeah.
I'm like ready to eat. I want to lay down. I'm tired. Like, this has just been so much, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, but this guy is like, I didn't know how to make him come. I was like, how do you, this is fucking taking forever. So then I just was like, I looked at my tits and I was just like, and then he made this crazy face.
He was doing
I tried to titty
what's it
fuck.
called?
I tried to
Titty
titty
fuck.
fuck the guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't have titties because I was like, you know, I was like a 17-year-old boy, like guy.
Did it turn him on?
No. He was like, "What do you do?" He was like, he wasn't like gross older, but he was more experienced than me, and so he was just like very taken off guard. I also think, in retrospect, I think I was actually probably more in like, I think I was like just getting my driver's license, or maybe just before that. So I think I was like 50. I was like a sophomore. He was like a senior, you know, and I just.
You can pass for 1 second, and we'll just edit that.
And babe, you're so flexible. He's very flexible. He's gonna be so shocking.
Cutest
Thanks, babe.
thing I've ever seen.
I know. Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cutest thing I've seen in my entire life.
I know, he's so good.
JVN's husband just went to bring us drinks, so sorry guys.
And that's like that's your iced tea that I foist upon you.
First of
I'm
all,
like, get a fucking drink.
What? It's so nice.
Cheers, girl.
Cheers, babe. It's so nice when people force you, because it just shows that you're so kind, you know?
It's so me.
Like you're not taking no for an answer.
Yeah, I love a gentle force.
I do too. I think everybody appreciates it. You know?
Get a fucking beverage.
Let's see.
You're like, disgusting.
Disgusting. Mark, this is a joke.
Okay, let's get to the question. I'm
wait,
so ready.
But I just want. Can I ask you one more question about anal?
Yes.
Mark has no idea like where we went.
It's been a whole thing.
Because I had a story in the town I grew up in that a girl did anal with a guy and shit on his penis. He told everybody. It was like, really. So does that not happen? I mean, poor girl though. He told everybody.
Yeah, of course it happens.
And like you're saying, you call it binky or blinky or whatever.
Just blink.
So is that a common thing?
Well, I've been really lucky in my marriage in that I, have not. But no, yeah, it could totally happen.
It could happen.
It's only really ever happened to us this one time, and I was like, fucking run me over with a car. I could just die. Like, it's not. Some guys are just like so, and like are very understanding. Like they don't shame. Like, and Marky's definitely not a shamer, but for me personally, like if it's, I'm just like, I just can't even fucking believe it. You know what I mean? Although, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
This one time, I was all ready, and then I hooked up with this guy, but he wouldn't kiss me on the mouth, which I was just like, this is so crazy. Like, I'm not someone who can, like, be fucked and not kiss. Like, I can't do that. And so then all of a sudden, and I was just, like, kind of laying there. I was like, oh my God, I feel, like, awful. I feel like I'm being used. This is, like, gross. I hate it. But I also didn't say just, like, stop. I was just like, maybe you'll just be done soon.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just stopped and he was like, oh my God, it's not clean. And I was like, you're kidding. And cause like, I just thought I was like, cause I thought I was so ready, but my body literally had been like storing this like balloon of water from the cleanse. Like I thought I'd evacuate everything, but there was just like one little pocket of water up there, and he poked my water balloon, and I just I just kind of like, it was like a shart water. It was like shart water. Cause there was like still some up there from the cleanse. But it was so nice. He was like this really muscular guy,
he was nice about it?
Oh no, he was like, it's not clean. I was like, sorry girl, better leave. Bye. Can wash off when you get home. Not kissing me on the mouth. Get the fuck out, you know?
I can't.
I did let him go to the bathroom really quick though, but yeah. But I loved it. Like my body like revolted because I didn't like the situation. And
you know what?
I couldn't say no, so my body was just like, said it for me. Yeah, like get out. And no, like my whole is like, get out right now. It's the end of you and me.
I love. Let's go back before all the anal.
Yes, before all the
anal. For people, because I want people to get to know you.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Like you're more than just.
More than just anal fucking sex, you guys. Not that much more, but like a little bit.
Just a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Illinois.
Yeah.
Was it conservative?
Yes.
Oh, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what was that like for you?
So much fun.
But now you're living in Texas. That's what I'm kind of.
Yeah, also so much fun.
Yeah, so much fun. Are you living in
I think
Texas?
it's trauma repetition.
Is it on purpose to help those areas? And
well, it really was. Well, okay, so yeah, yes, I'll start a second.
Okay.
So really, Texas I was minding my own business in March of 2020, and on like March 6th, we were moving to Austin to go to shoot Queer Eye season 5, and we did 4 days of the first episode before like the world shut down.
Wow, right.
And so at the time, it was kind of like, are you going to be off for 1 month, 3 months, 9 months, a year? Like no one knew how long. And I have 4 cats at the time. I have 5 now. Mark and I had just started dating.
You're a cat lady.
I'm a cat lady, but it's kind of a bitch to like drive 4 cats across the country, and they don't really like deal with that well. And I definitely wasn't like I wasn't flying with 4 cats, you know, because I don't know if people notice it, like you literally have to have like 1 person per pet. Like, so if I want to fly like all 5 of them, I gotta bring like, you know, 3 of my friends with my husband to get all my cats.
Yeah.
And only like 2 can be on a plane at a time, or like 3. So like
out of the whole airplane.
Yeah, it's like so it's like a big thing to like if you have
thing.
multiple cats and you're not like, you know, having that private plane money.
But can't
like
cats like survive on their own? Like in the house?
No, that's actually kind of like another misconception too. Like they really do need like consistency. They need socialization. Like
watch my, like, you can have my house if you like watch. I'm like, people don't care who.
Yeah, but I didn't know if I was like I mean, I was moving to Austin for 3 months.
Yeah.
Because the shoots are 3 to 4 months. So I was moving from March to May at least. So that's not a little amount of time.
So you drove with your cats.
Yeah. So like rent a
cats,
car,
get to Austin.
I get there, world shuts down 4 days later. And so I'm like, well, I could go back to my apartment in New York, but at the very beginning of the pandemic, everyone was like, Manhattan's running out of food. There's like no food. Like, so I was kind of like,
no toilet paper.
I was like, damn, maybe I'll just get like an Airbnb down here, like on a lake, and just like vibe this nice weather. So I did that because I was like, maybe we'll be back in production in like 3 months. Like, I don't know. Like, so I Airbnb'd a house. And then after a couple of weeks, I was like, wow, my nervous system. Like, because, the state legislature has like, I mean, it was never like a fucking, you know, oasis for queer people, but Austin was a little like is more liberal, and I did feel like good there. And I didn't feel, you know, in 2020 there was like not that many anti-queer laws, and then 2021 they, you know, tried a couple, and then 2022 they tried a couple more, and then this year, like this legislative session, they did like 500, like, or no, that's in the US, but in Texas there actually, maybe that was there was hundreds. I mean, an unbelievable amount of tests. I this year I started feeling really targeted in Texas, but when I first came, it didn't, I mean, it wasn't amazing, but I felt like I could
feel targeted, like personally, like if you go out.
I feel a little less safe.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Feel a little less welcome. But that's, you know, it's hard to feel welcome as a non-binary trans person when there's, you know, there's drag. I mean, I'm a comedian. Like, I wear the clothes that I wear when I perform. There was a law that was struck down, but they passed a law that was going to ban drag performances. Like, you know, if it could be any place in like where a minor could potentially see. So like I would be a drag performance because I'd be wearing a dress. So that means like I couldn't, you know, go read my children's book.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't, like in my stand-up comedy show, like isn't for kids anyway, but like I couldn't. Like,
right. You
like,
ask who does.
But it's like I couldn't. But it's like I couldn't read my book. Like I couldn't like read Peanut Goes for the Gold. I couldn't like do things that are totally fine and above board. But
that didn't pass.
Well, it got struck down by a federal judge, but the drag bans we've had more luck getting those banned, but a lot of the trans bans and gender affirming care bans have been allowed to go into effect in district court. So I think we're really likely to see that head to the Supreme Court next year, because we've had some district court of appeals rule against the bans being able to go in place, but then other ones have let them go into effect. So anytime like district courts have like competing rulings, like that usually fast tracks it to the Supreme Court. So we're going to be seeing this same Supreme Court that, you know, overruled Roe v. Wade. They're going to be ruling on gender affirming care for minors, and it's going to be a thing.
When is that going to happen?
I'm guessing next year. I mean, they haven't officially picked it up yet, but just the fact that like, I think like the First Circuit and the Sixth and the Eighth Circuit, I could be misspeaking here, but certain circuits have ruled competing rulings. So some have said, yeah, these gender affirming care bans can go into effect. And other ones have said they can't because they're unconstitutional. And so now that question of whether or not these, you know, gender affirming care bans are constitutional or not are going to be going to the Supreme Court.
And you've been doing so much activism for this. Like, did young Jonathan ever do you ever see yourself being in this place? Like, did you?
Well, like, and then to that question of like, we know what it was like growing up. I mean, yeah. I've always been really passionate about queer rights and really aware of queer rights. I mean, I grew up in the HIV/AIDS crisis. I grew up in like the age of like DOMA, which was like, you know, the Defense of Marriage Act that was passed in the Clinton era. So, I mean, the hot topic of conversation in my rural space was like, you know, like I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. Like, no, I don't think that, I mean, people were just really full face, like, yeah, no, you shouldn't be able to have the same rights as me. Like, maybe we should call it civil unions and you get the tax breaks and you can go into the hospital room, but no, like, it can't be like, and I mean, I think we're going to see that kind of we're going to see that play out too, because even in the Dobbs decision, Clarence Thomas said we should revisit marriage equality and even sodomy laws and return those to states' rights as well. So Justice Thomas has already, floated that idea, but I've always been someone who has been really passionate about current events, really passionate about queer rights, really passionate about equality, women's rights, and just passionate generally about like the world around me. So I was like that as a kid.
You were?
Yes.
And when did you come out as a kid?
Never really like had to hardcore come out.
Really?
Like, I mean, I think I probably started answering yes to the question of when kids called me gay in like 7th or 8th grade.
What, you just said yes?
Yeah, eventually.
Really?
I think there was like a brief moment in like the Baywatch era where I was like, I'm bi, like Pamela Anderson's hot. I was like, that's like a little less bad or something. But no, I mean, kids were calling me faggot really consistently by the time I was like in 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Yeah. Not kids in my grade necessarily, like older kids in school would be like, that kid's gay, that kid like from really, because I mean, I was like running.
Was it even before you knew it?
Well, I mean, I was wearing like, I didn't, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think any kids like necessarily exactly have the words, but like I totally had crushes on like, kids in my grade, and like there was this one boy Tyler who I would always like run up and like push him down when we were like, we were in like 2nd grade, and like I had these like sweatshirts and I was always like making them off the shoulder sweatshirts, and like I could like within Spice Girls I was like, girl power. Like I loved.
So when you're saying you never had to really come out,
I was super queer.
Did your family ask you about it too?
I think my mom in like 6th or 7th grade was like, honey, like, are you like, because the kids I call it, and she's like, it's totally fine if you are, like, I'll love you no matter what. But like, no, so she was like sweet about it, and I was like, no. And and then also I remember like around that time my mom found this like poster board that was under my bed where I had like all these like shirtless like it was called like my beauty inspo board, and like half of it was like black and white and like beautiful like glam like beauty ads from Vogue, but like of like fully clothed women, but like with like fierce ass hair and makeup. And then the other ones were just like all shirtless guys, like underwear model ads. Like
but who was on your wall? Like, do you have posters on your wall?
It was like all Hanson. I was like obsessed with Hanson. Yeah, it was like Hanson and Michelle Kwan. Yeah.
Oh, I'm dying.
So really gay, just like very.
Who out of Hanson were you into?
Okay, this is like really controversial, but I loved like that Isaac. I was
Wait, there's the young one. I always felt like I looked like. Don't I look like the young one?
Zach. You do kind of look like Zach now that I think about it.
Like if I
get a side part and some drums.
Isaac is the middle one, or
Isaac was the oldest.
The old one.
Taylor, I guess he is oldest, and Taylor's the middle.
So you had Hanson on your walls.
I did. I was really into them.
Oh my god.
But especially Isaac. I love someone with like a unconventional face.
So I do want to know how it works, because you saying you didn't have to come out to your family as you didn't have to come out as gay to your family, but did you? Is there a second coming out with being non-binary, where you have to kind of have that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, by the time I like had language for my non-binary identity, I was already like, like 30 or like 31. So, and I'd already like kind of established my own shit by then.
Right.
So that wasn't so much of like. And I write a lot about that, of my gender expression journey in my second book, Love That Story, because like I was always very like fluid and like wanting to wear evening gowns and really, like I said, like cutting like off the shoulder sweatshirts and wanting to wear tights and but like I always had like a very like much more feminine, much more fluid or like woman associated like inclination towards dress that was always like really heavily discouraged from like adults and like family. And then later as I kind of realized more about my sexuality, that I was like attracted to men, it's like even in that time there's only like 3 guys on gay.com or like the AOL chat rooms that were in like a 300-mile radius that you could somehow potentially like hook up with.
Yeah.
But I mean, femininity has never really been something, especially then, that was super celebrated within the gay community. So if you were going to express your femininity, like that was like really lowering the chances that you had of like getting dick. And I really getting dick, and when you're living in a rural space, is a full-time job. You got to be really committed. And so I really kind of
did you have to change?
Yeah, and even all my 20s, like I had wigs, I had boots, I had heels, I had tights. That shit was always hidden in a closet. Like I never wanted a guy to like see that when I was like, yeah. And then I think once I really was in the throes of sexual compulsivity and really dealing with that, I was like, I realized that I like didn't want to sacrifice myself anymore for sexual validation that was like so fleeting. And like I would say, like, once I sucked enough dick that there was like a comma in the number, I was like, I don't really want to sacrifice myself anymore for this like hollow ass like thing that I just don't even feel good. And it's like, I've just seen every dick there is to see over the age of 20. I don't care. Like, these guys are, I just want someone to see like me fully, as opposed to like just this, person that's like trying to get validated. So then more in like my late 20s, like mid to late 20s, as I started to like heal more, then I think I came more fully into my gender expression. And then as I started to like make other genderqueer and non-binary and gender non-conforming friends, and started like hearing them talk about it, and just my world opened up so much when Queer Eye happened. And so I met so many other people in my community where I was like, oh my God, that's how I felt my whole life.
Like, I don't have to hide this anymore.
Not even that I had to hide it, but I already knew I didn't have to hide it, like in my like, mid 20s. And I was more myself as I healed more. But once I made genderqueer friends and made like non-binary friends, that's when I learned the language and was like, oh my God, that's me too. Like, that's how I've always felt. But that wasn't until like after Queer Eye.
And then, because you reference these points in your life, but you did have a pretty complicated, life growing up and college and all of that. How are you this like ray of sunshine today that we all know you to be?
Well, I'm not really. If you read my comments, you'll see I can be a cunt. Like, I, tell people I'll just, type back nothing but middle fingers. Like, sure, Jan. Like, get fucked. Like, the comments can get reported sometimes, because it's giving, like, violating community guidelines.
Yeah.
So I'm not always a ray of sunshine.
You try to be.
And well, no, not even. I think in both my books, that's one thing that I really like about writing, and, like, whether it's writing or stand-up comedy or even podcasting, like, I can be a fuller version of myself. And on Queer, and this is something I write a lot about, like, I'm so grateful to Queer Eye, and I love Queer Eye, and like who you see on Queer Eye is who I am, but it's not all of who I am.
You feel like it's more one-dimensional?
No, it's not even one-dimensional, because I think, I'm really caring on there. I think that I can be, I feel like I'm giving you levels, but you can't know the fullness of anyone from, 45 minutes of a TV show. Like, everyone, that's like, and also, we're shooting like, we shoot like 5 days a week for like 6, 7, 8 hours a day. So there's a lot of hours that you're on camera that gets edited down to 45 minutes. So it's kind of giving you like the highlight reel of like the best of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like why, I am more open about like mess ups, my past, like, things that I've learned. And I try to be more upfront about the fullness of who I am, because I don't want people to be surprised when they realize that I'm like not always such a beacon of light, and I do struggle. And I think that positivity, and even like, how you show up in the world, it's like, even I think this is true of like masculinity and femininity. Like, you think that masculinity is like more strong, and that femininity is more like, a quiet strength or something. Most men could never wear what I'm wearing. I'm wearing heels today. I'm wearing this dress. Could never walk down the street. Like, the bravery that it takes to express my femininity, like the courage, the strength, the resilience, like most men could never, but that's considered feminine. But I think I see so much masculine traits that are in femininity.
Yeah.
So similarly.
Oh my God, oh my God, now that you're saying that, so many masculine traits in femininity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, I think positivity can also be like the courage to go through negativity. It can be the courage to be honest. It can be the courage, like, positivity doesn't have to be saccharine and like ray of light. I think positivity can be gritty, and I think it can be like sometimes dark. And I think that, and that's another kind of theme that I just write a lot about, is that like some of your greatest joys can live next to some of your greatest failures or your biggest sorrows. And the sorrow and the depression and the anguish like doesn't have to invalidate your joy. Like, everything is allowed to kind of like coexist,
live together. Yeah. Because you've had a lot of that. For people that don't know, you were saying before you were addicted to drugs, you had sex addiction issues, all these things.
Food, sex, drugs. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse.
Right.
I was a former sex worker. Yeah, I've been through some stuff.
What a life.
Yeah.
Do you feel like all of this brought me to where I am today? So, like, are there things that you're still struggling with accepting in your past?
No, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place with like my story and like my process and my trauma. I feel like more like what I kind of struggle with now is like, or worry about more now is just like other young people that are going through things similar to what I did. And I just, for as much progress as we think we've made, like, you know, seeing such this swell of like anti-trans vitriol and anti-queer vitriol, and, you know, like growing up, people were like, it's gonna get better. Like, and while I think things have gotten better, everything gives pendulum. And it's like we've been on this, like, I feel like we've been on this little backswing. Right. And that stresses me out for people. But no, I feel personally like I feel like, and I also have like a really good therapist and really good marriage therapist and, you know, good husband and good support system. Yeah. So I'm pretty lucky.
How did you and Mark meet?
On Instagram.
Stop. Yeah. Who slid into whose?
Mark slid into my DMs, but he asked about a sweater.
Your merch or something?
No, he was just like, oh, that's a cute jumper. Like, who made that? And I was like, I sent him back a picture of my hole.
No, you didn't.
No, I did. It was like spread eagle.
No. Like, how did you know that that's where he was going? Maybe he wanted the sweater. I could just tell. No, stop.
Yeah, I could tell he wanted it.
You just spread eagle?
No.
Okay.
I was like, it's like from this store or whatever.
I'll believe it.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So you answered. You said where it was from.
Yeah.
And that's how you started talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cute.
Yeah, and then we started chatting, and then...
What year was this?
2019.
Okay.
And then we had like one little date, and then...
Did he know you from your work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was like, hot.
I mean, yeah.
So I was like, And then, so we had like one little date in New York, and then...
Were you living in the same place at that time?
No, he was in New York visiting, for his work, and I lived in New York at the time. So we had a date. And then he went back to London, and then I was going to England for, like, my comedy tour and for my book tour. And so then I went to the UK for, like, 2.5 weeks that October. And, like, when I was on my way, I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to be in town if you want to hang out. And then we hung out, like the first night that I got there. And then that was the time when it was, like, and then we hung out the next night, and then we hung out the next night, and then we hung out the next night. And we ended up hanging out, like, every night that I was, like, in London that time. And, like, that's really when we started dating.
That's so cute. So it's been like 4 years. And then you got married in 2021?
2020.
2020?
Yeah.
Wow.
In June of 2020.
So you both knew it was it?
Yeah. / immigration, but yes.
Was there a proposal?
Yeah, with this immigration attorney. And we were like, wait, how do we get him to be able to stay and not violate like the law? And she was like, you have to get married. And I was like, damn, that's so intense. And so,
did you ever think you would get married? Like, were you planning
so,
on it?
Yeah. Okay. And so it started off, we were both like, how Trey not romantic.
Yeah.
But then we kind of like slept on it, and then we were both it was really cute. We were like, actually, it's kind of romantic.
like, no, but honestly, it's more romantic if you think about it.
Yeah. And so then we were like, and we were just like, it is fast, but like but we were both just like, if we want to take this relationship seriously and we want to it was that, because like I just am not the type of person who can like have you go to London and like I'll stay here and like just not know when I'm gonna get the D next. Like I can't just like get like an indefinite discontinuation of my access to D.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we got married in June, and then obviously I was kind of scared because I was like, I don't want to like tell people yet, and I just was like, I don't want to hear people's fucking mouths.
Yeah. And so what, did you wait until the anniversary to tell people?
No, then I buried it in a camera roll dump on like New Year's Eve of 2021. I was like, by the way, I also got married, because like sometimes you just like want to just say it and then just, because it had been my life for the last, like, so I knew and I felt good about it. My world knew. And then I was like, okay, I think I feel ready now. I always kind of try to do that. Like I just like, to, like sneak it in there.
It's a little boop, I call
it. Like I'm like boop. Yeah.
On the fizz slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like, I mean, not to like, but it really was such a weird time, and I think this is like a good example of like with social media, like there's a lot more going on than what people talk about. Sometimes when I see my friends who aren't public figures just being messy as shit and saying every little fucking thing that's going on in their life, or even their big trauma, I'm like, I'm jealous. I miss being able to be like...
You have to overthink it, you feel like now?
No, I just cannot share.
Really?
something. Yeah, like I had like a really.
But you share so much.
I know, but I had like a really significant death in my family like this year, and like wasn't going to talk about that. Like it was really unexpected. It was really devastating. Like I'm not going to talk about it. And people, yeah, like, but so in that time, you know, we got married. Then the day that we got married, my mom ended up in a really intense health situation. She's fine now, but she actually ended up like, I FaceTimed her the night of our wedding because like none of our family could come because of the travel ban. Like, so Mark's family couldn't get here from the United Kingdom. And then it felt weird to have even just like my mom be there if like his mom couldn't be there. So it was just like me and Mark and a judge and my old assistant who like also is a photographer. So he just came to take some pictures of us like for our day.
Did you do it at like City Hall?
No, we did it in our backyard. And then, cause like COVID, and then our moms and dads and step parents like joined on Zoom. And, then that night I FaceTimed my mom, and she had mentioned that day, she was like, oh, I was up all night, didn't feel very good. And then I FaceTimed her at like 6:00 that night to be like, oh my God, like we're married, having fun. And she answered from a hospital bed with like one eye going this way, one eye going that way. And she was like, why are you crying? Like, no one's telling you I'm here until tomorrow. And I was like, bitch, you just told me right now you're like in a hospital. What the hell? And it's like 6 hours after we were married, it's like, I'm watching my mom, like, and like she's.
And you couldn't even go probably.
No, it was like, and it was, no one was allowed to go in the hotel or in the hospital. My brother was actually there, and he was like trying to get in through emergency exits, and like there was like police, and so he was like, but you can't go in. It was like a thing. And so, and again, I was going to talk about my mom's health shit online. I'm not going to talk about the loss of a family member online.
Why do you feel like you can't talk about those things? Or you just want to keep them private?
Well, my mom's health stuff is my mom's health stuff.
Right.
So like, you know, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Where do you draw the boundaries? People have so much shit to say, and people are just like absolutely cruel. Like my cat fell out of a window and died in like 2019. It was like the saddest thing that's ever happened to me. And I accidentally like in like just really intense grief, like a few people asked me for selfies like the day that it happened when I was like going to work, and then I ended up like turning into that crazy meme, and I was like, get away! And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to make an Instagram post. It's basically just like, hey, if you see me on the street and I'm acting fucking crazy, like this is why, because I was just like unhinged and I had to work, and there was no time to grieve. There was no time to take any work off. Like I just had to like, I like had to go do a shoot for Queer Eye like an hour later.
Oh my
like
God.
Literally like found like the front desk of this apartment building, like found it because I like couldn't find my cat. The window was like this big. It was like a 2-inch like window. It's like they don't even open up and down. They open like those like little pie wedges. Yeah. But I didn't know that like full grown cats are capable of like go through like the tiniest of holes. They literally can flit through it. And so he got out on the sill, couldn't get back in. They like he wasn't there on like the security footage at like 5 a.m, and then at like 5:30 he was there. I wake up, I can't find him. I'm like looking everywhere for my cat. I go down to the front, and I'm like, because I was like the night before I'd like gotten Uber Eats, and so I was like, when I got the food from the front door, I like thought he like slipped out, so like just gotten out of the front door. So I was all like, or I was like, oh my God, someone kidnapped my cat, like when he got out into the hallway from Uber Eats. So I was all like, bug, like walking through the halls. And then I was like, let me go downstairs. And so then when I went down to the front desk and was like, I can't find my cat, her face just like totally changed. And the second that her face made that face, like I remembered that like the air conditioning in the building had stopped the night before, so like that's why I cracked the window, because it was just like hot as shit.
Oh, so you were immediately, your mind went there.
It was like a movie. I was like, oh my God, window open, like can't find my cat. And I had literally opened like every cupboard, because like my brain just did not, like I didn't even realize that it was like a possibility.
Did they take the cat away, or did you see
they found him, and then they had him like back in an office, and I literally like just like collapsed to the floor and was just like sobbing on the ground. And then like the lady was like, oh my God, do you need help, like back upstairs? And I was like, huh. And so then I went back upstairs. When I went upstairs, like all the windows or like all the cabinets were still open, and then I rushed over to the window, and I could see these like marks on the window, and it was the most traumatizing. And then that's just like 7:30 in the morning, and like my call time was like 9. And so, and like these people from GMA had just won this like thing to watch us film like a loft scene. So I just like,
you had to be you're saying you had to be on that day,
and it was on the way, like, because we were like, my apartment was like a couple blocks away from where that like house was, so it was like on the way walking there that I was like crazy to like 3 different pedestrians, and I was like, I'm gonna have a fucking like glitter public, like I'm gonna fucking freak out. Like it was just the worst day ever. And then but when I shared that on Instagram, like, I don't name search myself on Twitter anymore because it's like and also I don't even like use Twitter, but I went through this phase where like I would look at to see what people were saying, and people would say the craziest shit about Bug. His name was Bug the Second.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, oh, don't say anything about JVN or he's gonna murder a cat, or like they would like draw these pictures of like me and a cat falling out of a window, or just like these crazy hurtful things. Or like back in like 2020, like when I endorsed Elizabeth Warren, like these kids on Twitter were like taking these pictures of me from this photo shoot and being like Ronald Reagan, like laughing at me as I die of full-blown AIDS, like just these crazy, like really crazy. So it's like when I have shared about my living with HIV, or I have shared about really difficult things, some people get something out of it, like as far as like, oh, like whatever, but then other people are just like fucking crazy. And
like
once you've seen something about that, like senior, like it's so hard, and you never get used to that sort of cruelty. Like you just can't.
You can't imagine that there's a person that could be
well,
that
because to
much
you, to them, you're not a person.
Yeah.
You're like this caricature of yourself where they've seen one headline or they've seen one clip and they're like, I fucking hate that person.
Do you block people?
For sure.
Yeah, you're a blocker.
But you know, that's why I don't share about certain things. So it's like if my mom is, and again, my mom is like fine, or she's healthy now, like she's sorted her stuff out, which is like awesome. But you know, with like marriage as well, like you're more protective because people, and it's one thing when people say crazy things about you, but it's another thing when people say crazy things about like someone that you love. And so that's like, you know, with like the death in my family, like you know, it's just, you just get more like protective.
Yeah. That's why you don't really talk about your family that much, right? Like your brother and sister, anything like that.
Yeah.
You keep that. It feels like you've shared what you've shared, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Of everything you've went through, and then now you're picking and choosing more.
I always kind of was a picker and a chooser. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I ask you and you don't have to share, do you want kids?
I think no.
You think no?
Because we have 5 cats and 3 dogs.
Oh, I was gonna ask you if you don't like dogs. So you like dogs and cats?
I love
you have
both.
5 cats and 3 dogs?
Yeah.
How do you travel? You have people watching?
Yeah, we have like 3 really trusted house sitters who we love that like all of our animals.
That's important.
Yeah.
What dogs?
Our oldest is Elton, after Elton John, and then our middle girl is Rose, and she's a Pyrenean mountain dog and pit mix from Safe in Austin, and she's Rose after Rose Nyland, from Golden Girls, and then our youngest is George after George Michael, and he's like a Australian cattle dog, like pit collie.
Do they get along with the cats?
Yeah, Georgie gets a little chasey and Rose gets a little chasey, but all the cats love Elton, and Elton loves all the cats.
Wait, so do you think you're gonna stay living in Austin then?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of made it our home, and now I do feel like, you know, I feel like people would have said like if Georgia was gonna elect like 2 Democrat senators and help deliver the White House for Democrats in like 2008 or 4, you would have said like they were on like shrooms or acid or something. So I feel like I do feel like living in Texas, like I feel like at the beginning it was like nervous system, like it was nice for my nervous system, and it was also nice because like just people don't expect to see me there, so it was like less like getting accosted all the time. Not that I mind it, I do love like fans, but and just like meeting people, but your nervous system like can only take like so many times of someone, especially if you run late all the time, which I do, and then someone will like, especially like living when I lived here, like I am consistently late, and then you don't want to like let someone down when they're like trying to tell you that like, but then it's like, girl, I'm literally 20 minutes late to this like doctor's appointment or whatever the fuck, and like I really gotta go, but I don't want to be a bitch. But then I could
see you in New York though. You have a New York vibe.
Yeah, because I lived here for like 3 years.
Yeah.
But then, but you
can't live here with all the cats and the dogs.
It would be a lot.
It would be too much.
It would be, and you would need like a really big house.
Yeah.
And I just don't have like that Olsen row money Kardashian. Like I'm not, like I'm obviously.
No. But even when you see like big celebs that live here on like Architectural Digest, their houses aren't that big if they live in New York City. Like you can't.
That shit's expensive as shit.
And
here.
Also brownstones, they like go up, but they're not big.
I'm obsessed with brownstones.
I know, me too. But that's what I'm telling myself. That's why I told you that. Because I'm obsessed with the brownstones.
Yeah, they're so
But
cute.
I'm convincing myself that they're not.
They're so like stupid and awful and terrible and like not even fucking useful.
I literally did research and it was like they're just high up. Do you understand?
Like 2 boxes. There's like
exactly
big, tiny 2 boxes.
The floors aren't wide.
Shit. They're shit fucking floors.
I wanted to talk to you about so many things.
We talked about like anal and
Yeah.
stuff for so long.
About growing up and then college, and then after college, you had to drop out, and then and that's how you got into hair. But what I wanted to know, was hair ever an inkling before that moment? Always.
I always knew I wanted to do hair.
Really?
But my family was like,
political science.
yeah, they're like, you need to go to college, and then if you go to college and you still want to do hair, then you could do hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
You know what? That's stupid.
I know it was.
Well, I wanted to, do things too, and my mom was like, you have to have a degree, but I won't do that to my kid.
Well, because I mean,
with
also,
this stupid
like,
degree. It's so expensive too.
Those hoes being our parents, when they had to go to college, it was like 12,500. Like the most expensive college I bet was like, it was like 10,000 or 12,000.
Yeah.
Like you could get like a reasonable education.
Yeah.
Now it's like you're gonna be in debt for fucking 20 or 30
because
years. Unless your parents have like an extra like 150 or two, like who has just like an extra 150 just sitting around, and especially if you have like multiple brothers and sisters, like.
I know. In college, we used to bully our one friend whose parents paid for it straight out. We'd just be like, how does it feel?
I mean, that's probably feels pretty good. I'd imagine that feels pretty
How
awesome.
does it feel?
You should try to fuck that friend. Like, have sex with that friend and become best friends with them.
Just have their money.
Yeah.
Pay off my student loans.
That'd be good. Oh my God, your in-laws could pay off your student loans. Is it a girlfriend or a guy friend?
No. It was my roommate in college. We have tattoos of our dorm number.
Like too friendly. Yeah, like can't do all of them. Or like more friendly.
I wanted to. First of all, I wanted you to come on my podcast. I think the email that I got was even about your hairline or something. I was like, I want JVN on the pod. And then, you did that Armchair Expert pod, and I thought you were potted out. I was like, it's not going to happen.
No.
But you're not potted out.
You can never pod me out.
You can never pod you out. Can't pod out a pod house. So what can you just tell us about that? Like, are you and Dax good? Did the internet take it to... Was the internet crazy, divisive?
Well, the internet is crazy and divisive.
Yeah.
I think Dax and I are good. I haven't spoken with him since.
He did apologize.
He did?
On the podcast at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look.
You didn't expect to go into that. It felt war-zone-y.
It just felt... It felt fine. It felt... Okay, actually, it didn't feel that good. And also, it was really edited. And also, I really asked for... Like, I just wanted insight. Because, like, obviously, that was a pretty intense conversation.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that it would be edited. I just wished that I could have had a transcript or, like, had insight into what that edit would be. And, I asked for that and wasn't given that. And so... as someone who's been hosting a podcast for 8 years, like, I do transcripts. I let my guests read the transcript. That part was kind of hard. There was some stuff that I said about
people noticed that, though, just
No,
the internet did notice
I know, but I just, that part, I was just like, but he's nice. Chris, I have a lot of respect for him. I will say this. I thought he was very brave to release it. I thought that he was...
He could have edited his... He could have...
to be clear, he was very edited.
Yeah.
That was not exactly...
what went down.
Yeah. I would say it was worse.
You thought he might not release the episode.
Yes. Or I thought he would... But I think that if a more accurate edit existed, I think you would see why I cried.
Right. That's what people were talking about, and I heard it too. When you broke down, the listeners didn't, at that moment, I mean, it made sense that you would break down because of the whole conversation. You said, I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted from having to defend these kids, and I'm, exhausted.
But you know what I was also...
And the amount of knowledge
But I was really exhausted from the gaslighting. It was really gaslighty to say, I can agree with you on 9 of 10 things, but then I disagree on one thing and you're going to label me. Well, he wasn't agreeing with me on 9 of 10. He was actually disagreeing with me on every single thing I said.
You called him your dad. You were like, I feel like I'm talking to my dad.
I did. And every single thing I said, he had pushback. Every single thing. And I thought it was interesting for someone with a anthropology degree from whatever, like, in Kleinfelters or whatever. It's like, I was absolutely right about my intersex statistics, which they went on to say in their fact check, and then really didn't spend any more time on that. And you know, he dressed me down for that, said it was wrong. I also thought it was funny, and this wasn't edited, this was true. I said, you know, transphobes would say that this is an overly blown number, and then he immediately said, well, I do think that's an overblown number.
Right.
And he was completely wrong. And I just, you know, for that, and I also just think, there's a world where, like, a second conversation would be nice privately, where a more genuine apology and ownership for...
Did you expect that to happen? Like, were you like, I'm gonna get an email?
A little, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought that there would be a reach out.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if I had someone into my home to have a podcast and, you know...
Made them feel bad.
Not made them feel bad. I mean, he was a lot more animated in real life. I mean, I almost got up and left twice.
Wow.
It was intense.
Why didn't you? Like, what stuff?
Because I was sitting in fucking Dax Shepard's house. Like, you're not sitting in an office like this. You're, like, literally in someone's house. You don't really feel like you're in your power.
Did you know of him? But like,
of course,
like,
I followed him on Instagram for 15,000 fucking years. I'm a huge fan of his wife. It was just like very unexpected
and disappointing.
Well, not disappointing. It was just unexpected. And I think what really made me emotional, other than the gaslighting part, is that, like, when I realized, like, how committed people are to, like, narratives that they've been exposed to, whether or not they're, like, true. Like, you get exposed to these headlines and these narratives around transphobia or about, you know, fairness in women's sports or, you know, kids transitioning, blah, blah, blah. And then people think they're so right, but they can really be so wrong. And I'm like, wow, this is someone who considers themselves an ally, and this is how they're talking. It's like our community has so much to overcome.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of I was really stressed out about. I was like, oh my God, like, it was just washing over me. Like, in that moment, I'm like, but, you know, I did say in the conversation, I love these conversations, but I just didn't realize it was going to go, you know, so intense. But definitely not potted out. I think Dax is really sweet. I think he's very sweet. I don't think he means harm. I will say that. He does not mean harm. And I thought it was brave to release the episode. And I'm glad that he allowed for so many more people to be exposed to
Did you feel supported by, I mean, the internet or your community, like, after it came out?
Yeah, I'm just, like, so uncomfortable. Like, I'm not one of those, I'm not really comfortable in controversies like that.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me feel really bad.
I know. And you like to be, like, good with, you like to be in
I don't like TikTok fucking takedowns of, like, you know, like, I think we all kind of care what people think. I'm trying to get more comfortable with not, but it's hurtful when people really think that you're, like, a nightmare shitty person. And then, like, the Megyn Kelly videos and all these, like, TERFs tagging me in, like, 15,000 fucking videos and you just being, like, fucking transphobic assholes. Like, it opened me up to a lot of online abuse too. Yeah. But I'm sure that, you know, there's a lot of people that were really coming for him as well.
Yeah, I do have to say I did see both. So, but I'm sorry you had to go through that, and it is disappointing for me from Dax because I'm a fan as well and listen to his podcast and stuff. But I was also blown away, which I'm sure so many people, like, your knowledge about this stuff.
Too, like, what is that? Edited in that episode, though, it seems like I talk with no breath for 30 minutes. When in reality, like, you know, we were having a conversation. It's just that I was getting interrupted in the middle of every fucking thing I said so often that they had to, like, edit all my thoughts in a stream of consciousness because I really couldn't get 3 sentences out without, you know,
I'm sorry that you went through that.
But I do think, you know, I am also attracted to a lot of
Dax
Republicans.
Shepard. No, I'm just
I'm attracted to a lot of Republicans. I talk about that in my stand-up comedy. It's, like, purely physical. Like, I'm not down with their policies, but, like, if I saw them in an alley and they wanted me to go down on them, like, I would do it. And so...
What makes a Republican attractive?
Same thing makes anyone attractive. Like, jawbones, pecs.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You know, your vibe.
Okay, so the physicality.
Your principal vibes.
Yeah,
just, like, purely biologically. If you guys want to talk about biology, let's talk about biology.
Yeah.
You know, and my attraction.
Yeah.
This is biological. But yeah, I mean, Dax, you know, he's very charismatic and very engaging.
Okay. I just want to do one thing before you go.
Yes.
What do you want to say?
Well, just for getting curious. So JVN hair, we love you because was this for that? We love JVN hair. My hair is like amazing today.
No, first of all, I want to say because I said it before we started, I have JVN hair.
Yes.
Purple bottles. I love it.
We switched to blue.
Oh my God! Excuse me. I have the old one.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Okay.
But I also just want to say, if you are like, oh my God, I just think JVN is so much fun and I want to listen to their podcast, and you don't feel like learning, we just did 2 new, like, additions to the Getting Curious universe. So like I do Getting Curious every Wednesday, which is like my little pride and joy. But now every other Monday I'm doing Curious Now, which is like the queer headlines. And
Yeah, I was wondering why there were 3 different titles.
So, because now I've been doing Getting Curious for 8 years. We've done like over 350 episodes. I've interviewed like so many experts across like all of academia. And so now Curious Now is about like, it's kind of just giving you a quick recap of the headlines. It's giving you like a couple little segments. And then I have a past guest on to talk about something that's going on now. So it's like a little update on them, but shorter. And so that's
Getting Curious, Curious Now.
And then Pretty Curious.
And then Pretty Curious. So it's 3 podcasts.
It's actually 4. I haven't gone to Ask JVN yet, but Pretty Curious is it's just our beauty podcast. It's where I get to do like salon talk. We're talking about beauty, like hairdressers, makeup artists, estheticians, injections, all things beauty.
Wow.
And then Ask JVN is basically like talk sex with Sue Johansson, but it's behind a paywall and you gotta like pay for it because I'm really slutty and I'll probably get canceled for it. It's basically like the beginning of this podcast, but even worse.
Oh my God, love it. I would pay for that. So the tour too, you're touring until December.
I am, and then I'm gonna add on some new dates next year too.
Oh
so
my
Fun
God.
and Slutty will be coming to some more cities in January and February.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't traumatize your listeners.
Oh my God, you are a gem.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.